And here we go. We're starting the recording because Kristi Nelson is in the house. This is an exciting time for us on the Mcdermott radio show. She comes very frequent. She used to come for 2 years, right? For 2 years, right, Kristi? Or a year?
Every month.
Every month. And now when she's on the show, it is magic. So fasten your seatbelt. We're going to learn and grow together. Hit it, Brian.
The Lillian
right on cue. Right on cue. Time to dance.
Bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be. I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
This has been enjoyable, Kristi.
Listen,
you can always
Ellen does it.
Yeah, she does it. You can do it too.
Reach out to Lillian. Visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian Mcdermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the Lillian Mcdermott radio show, the purpose of the show is to provide a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening friend, will feel empowered to learn a new truth and just feel like it is time to live the life of your dreams. And for those of you who are embracing the holidays and are just stressed out that, oh my gosh, my uncle, my aunt, this neighbor, somebody at this holiday season that you're going to encounter is going to poke you in the eye. Just poke you in the eye. You're not going to like it. They may not be your favorite. But you're also going to be around people that are just absolutely phenomenal, and you look forward to seeing these people once a year. But what do? We focus on the ones that we do not like, the focus on the ones that stress us out. So how can we love, even at a higher level, love those people that are unlovable or just challenge you to learn how to love deeper? So today we have Kristi Nelson, the Executive Director of a Network for Grateful Living. And I am so excited because every time she's on the show, I learn something even more to how to love deeper, how to be grateful for these moments that we are not happy about. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Kristi Nelson is here to do just that. Welcome back, Kristi.
I am so happy. Thank you so much for having me. It's a thrill, and this is a great topic, and I'm just so excited to get to be with you once a season now. At least we do it 4 times a year. We used to do it so
every
often.
month. I miss you, my friend.
But this is great. Thank you so much.
Because it's an even greater treat when you don't see somebody every month or every day or whatever, and you see them once. And I must say, you look better now than when I first met you. You look fabulous. Tell us what you've been up to with either for yourself or for gratefulness.org, a network for grateful living.
Oh, thank you so much. We are super, not just busy. Our plates are heaped with the most bountiful, beautiful feast of offerings right now in our lives. I'm telling you, it is our Thanksgiving. This is our Thanksgiving season. And Brother David, who is our founder, was just on the Oprah Winfrey. He was on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah Winfrey a couple of weeks ago, and that has brought us a huge amount of attention. And Oprah has really loved our work, and we have this new video called A Grateful Day, which is an absolutely beautiful video. If you want to shift the energy of the meal, or it's like a grace, it's a 5-minute video. We call it a video meditation. And A Grateful Day was just released, and we've already got 300 and something thousand views on YouTube of a Grateful Day video, and that's
That
also
is
on our
amazing.
website. Yeah,
That is amazing. So we can watch it. We can go on to gratefulness.org and see this video.
Yep, you right there, and you just type in A Grateful Day, and it is one of the most beautiful videos people have ever seen. They're using it in schoolrooms now. People are using it with gatherings. They use it as a daily meditation. So it's a beautiful thing, and so that's one thing we've done too. So it's great.
And I see, as I went to gratefulness.org, although I am registered as one of the followers of the site, I get this welcome. We're glad you're here. And there's a picture with you, Oprah Winfrey, Brother David, and I don't know who this other guy is.
It's one of our board members. His name is Anthony Chavez.
Uh-huh.
He's lovely. He's the grandson of Cesar Chavez from from many years ago. So he's on our board. So we were the folks who were together at Oprah Winfrey's house in May for the filming. So that was a real blessing.
And was that an amazing experience?
It was an amazing experience. She has a beautiful home. I didn't get to go in it, but just the grounds were breathtaking.
Well,
so, yeah.
I grew up on Oprah Winfrey. She was my teacher. She was the one that broke all the barriers and helped me see how important it is to learn from one another. And Kristi, have you ever been in a situation where someone just rubs you the wrong way and you just don't know because they make you feel uncomfortable in somehow or some form? Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, sure. And I think in families, we're challenged because the spiritual premise of a family is you get everything that you need, not everything that you want. So I think there's a lot of opportunity when we have family occasions and big family gatherings to get to do a lot of healing, a lot of noticing what gets triggered for us and what gets brought up and everything. So yes, absolutely.
Isn't that amazing? They say, there's a saying, when I became a life coach, they said, if you think that you've evolved, go hang out with your family for just a little bit and you'll go right back to the beginning. And this is what we're talking about today on the Lillian Mcdermott Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments, you always be able to call 407-373-5959. You can leave a message or text. And we're going to continue our conversation with one of my favorites, Kristi Nelson, the Executive Director of A Network for Grateful Living. And we're going to continue our conversation when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you.
I'll be right here waiting for you.
Okay, so here we go. Time to dance. I love it. This is the first time I get to speak.
You can text Lillian Mcdermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
And welcome back to the Lillian Mcdermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. And today's teacher is none other than Kristi Nelson. She is the Executive Director of A Network for Grateful Living. Kristi Nelson has been on the show many, many times. Every time she comes on the show, she raises our awareness to a higher level. And so I want to encourage you to go to whenyounneedafriend.com. Just search for Kristi, Kristi, and that will lead you to everything she's done on the Lillian Mcdermott Radio Show, so you can catch up with her and fall in love with her just as I have. Now, Kristi, it's been a while since you've been on the show, and today we're going to be going right into this expression of love for those people that just poke us in the eye, that make us feel uncomfortable. But do they really make us feel uncomfortable, Kristi? Or is this the state of our judgment?
Well, certainly what we know is that when we're in a place where it's hard for us to be with ourselves, it's going to be harder to be with other people. So I think one of the ways that we can work with this is cultivating for ourselves a sense of more unconditional joy, presence, love. When we go into gatherings, to see ourselves as servants of something higher than maybe easily visible or available in the moment in the room. expect to, I mean, I think one of the big things to do is to go in without expectations, or even just to expect it to be challenging and to learn and to get to be a teacher. I think our expectations are one of the things that get us into the biggest trouble. And I know, Lillian, that you would agree with, we walk in and we expect something to be perfect. We expect it to be easy. We expect everybody to have a certain response to us. And people are going through their own things. It's not about us all the time. Taking things personally is the biggest travesty of all of it, right? So there's all these people going through their own really big challenges, and it's so easy to take it as a poke in the eye on purpose, rather than, oops, I'm sorry I poked you in the eye. I'm just flailing about in my life, right? So, and while I was flailing about in my life, I happened to poke you in the eye. And so think of it that way, rather than, oh my God, I can't believe you did that and you meant to poke me in the eye. That's all about projection, not just judgment, but projection, right? So I think it's so much opportunity to dive into our deepest self-awareness, our deepest mindful self-awareness of what's going on inside of us.
Absolutely. Giving somebody the benefit of the doubt is what I'm hearing you say. But here's the thing. I'm going to shift. You said something about going in as teachers, but there's something to be said with going in on it as a learner, as a student, because there are certain people in my life that rub me the wrong way. They poke me in the eye, and I know that. I know, and it's because perhaps maybe they're calling me to a new level of love, of unconditional love, that I was maybe unwilling to give before. There are certain things that I do to prepare for that. I start sending love to them before I even encounter them. But once we're in that moment that we're together, I know that they're going to say something that is going to be so maybe politically incorrect, or maybe it's just a dig at who I am, a mocking of who I am, of what I've created for myself, for my life. And perhaps maybe it's not about me, it's about them. And there have been times where I've encountered these people. And so my number one goal is to find something beautiful in them, something that I can love. What would you say those things that we can love in the other person are?
Well, Brother David has this amazing quote, which Oprah Winfrey happened to love, and he just said it on the program recently, which is, love is a lived yes to belonging.
Can you repeat that?
Love is a lived yes to belonging. And what that means is that we all belong here together in some way on this planet, and or in this moment, in this living room, in this family. And the lived yes is about us not resisting the fact that, and what he says, it's really interesting. So I'll just, because this was a very interesting part of the interview and an interesting part of what he writes about. He talks about loving your enemies. And what he says is, you can love people, but it doesn't mean that they're not still difficult for you. But you can love them as part of a lived yes to belonging, that we all belong here in some way. You don't question that belonging. You belong here, you've got your own feelings. We're differentiated, right? So when we're undifferentiated, we take everything personally. We take everything as if it's like, okay, we're supposed to be the same person. Instead, I see you as different. And I think he has a lot to say about, let's look at people for exactly who they are, not be reactive, try to find that place of intersection, like you're saying, try to find that lovability in them, and grant them that place of their own belonging on the planet, in this moment, where they are, no matter what that looks like.
So can you recall a time in your life, and I could probably recall thousands of them when I was younger. As I've gotten older, it's a little harder for me to recall them, because I know the antidote to fear, and I know the antidote to wanting to isolate. I know the antidote for that. And so was there a time in your life? Love.
What is it?
Love.
Yeah,
Love
more.
Love more. Love more. And again, there's a difference between forgiveness and trust. There are people that you need to love from afar. There are people who cannot be in the same room with you because they're violent, or they have an addiction. that is beyond manageable.
That's
And
right.
so there are times where you do have to love from afar. Those are deal breakers.
Yep.
But to me, love is the answer. And the times that I've experienced that, I had to mentally prepare for months to be in the same room with the individual, send them love and forgiveness and light and energy. And what you send out into the world comes back. So that was my experience of I didn't like how I felt because of what they did to me. And I needed to go beyond that because I needed to love.
Right.
I needed to love. So is there a time that you can recall? And what was your experience and your journey there?
Oh my gosh. I've got a few good ones. But there are people I'm not going to mention by name just in case they listen to this show. But very close relatives, I would say, who challenge me in really different kinds of ways. And one is a person, I think it's really difficult when you are around someone who doesn't communicate directly. For those of us who appreciate and value direct communication, one of the things that's most befuddling is when you feel like, boy, I feel like I'm getting stabbed, but I don't see the knife. I feel like I'm getting poked, but there's nothing coming at me. And there's a lot that's actually more on the subtle terrain. I think we need to really understand
passive aggressiveness
and that indirect communication, which is all these ways of trying to get you to feel guilty. And then I've even said to someone, geez, it feels like you're trying to get me to feel guilty. Is that what you're doing right now? Like just checking in on that, like in a real
say it out loud. There's an elephant in the room.
It just seems like you're really wanting me to feel bad, or so it's just sometimes but to hold it lightly, right? So I think holding things lightly is also our liberation. And that's what I mean by being a teacher. We're always students.
Yes.
We're always learning, and teachers are hopefully always learning. Otherwise, they're not teachers I'm interested in. But we're also always students because we're taking note, we're changing, we're morphing. But the way of being a teacher is what I mean is embodying our deepest intentions. So we are the embodiment. And that's how we teach. We teach through being the example of what it is that we most care for. Because the worst thing is to say like, oh, I'm this really loving person. And then you freak out and go off the rails and you don't end up being a loving person in that situation. Holding ourselves dear and near, highly accountable to ourselves, our own principles and values, and acting from our hearts as much as possible. And when we can't, when it's really, really hard, the best thing to do is just be quiet and to still ourselves and connect with our core, connect with faith, pray, meditate, whatever you can do. But that's a form of self-care that's without detaching. You kind of detach with love. You stay in the space, you stay in the room, you stay there, but you're really protecting yourself internally at the same time.
For those of you who are tuning in, you're listening to Kristi Nelson. She is the executive director of a network for grateful living. Absolutely adore her. We're talking today about people that poke you in the eye, especially when you know these times a year where we come together and there's so many people that you love to see. And then what happens, we've been in situations where we go in and there's maybe a few people that avoid us or avoid me in particular. And it's because I can tell a story of why I think she avoids me or he avoids me or they avoid me. But the reality is they're dealing with their own stuff. In a situation like that, how do you deal with that? Kristi, do you go there and say, hello, have you been? And embrace that person even though you know they're avoiding you? Or do you just avoid them?
Is there something in between? I mean, that's my thought at the moment is, one is the part of me that's an approval addict and that's a conflict avoidant person wants to chase that person down and love them into submission, hug them into, some altered consciousness. But what's interesting is to notice what that impulse is, what the impulse is to go towards all the time has more to do with trying to calm my own nervous system than actually doing something that's necessarily very beneficial for that person or for myself. And, it's like when you're, if you're ever doing a public talk and you notice the one person in the room who's shaking their head and everybody else is nodding in approval, and your attention just goes towards that one person who's shaking their head kind of in disbelief. And that's another form of like judgment or avoidance. It's really hard to keep our energy from being sucked right into that one place
Yes.
of avoidance and disapproval. And that's the ego, right? That's the ego just getting all distracted by, you don't think I'm okay, but I'm going to try to convince you I'm okay. And that's a big energy suck for all of us. Like that'll just take all the energy you have in the whole room. And guess what? You're then unavailable to all the people who love you, who are happy to see you, because you're so busy trying to get this one person who's trying to avoid you in some way to be convinced that you're lovable. Well, what if you just decide you're lovable and you let everybody else love you up, and then that person sees everybody else loving you up and being with the people you love, having a great time? Nothing could be better than that. Then in some ways just, I hate that feeling good is the best revenge or something like that, but being loved and being loving is also that, is not being thrown off kilter by someone else's judgment or avoidance.
Yeah. Well, I believe that you acknowledge everybody in the room. You say hello.
Sure.
Wherever it goes from there, that's where it goes. But but it's interesting that you would say that need for approval is what gets that. You have to figure out what's your motivation. What is your intention with this individual? Yeah. Is this intention for this individual to just love them from wherever they need to be, from a place of wherever they're at? Or do you need approval from this person? And that's a great thing to meditate on or to sit with prior to encountering this person. And so does that sound like you? Does this sound like something that you could do, my listening friend? Well, I don't know. Let's check it out. And we're going to continue our conversation with Kristi Nelson of A Network for Grateful Living when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. That was a great one, Kristi.
Aww.
Yeah, because I guess my need to just say, hey, music, I love it. Remember when I got my new theme song? It's like, John Harper of WMEL, he was like, I like Lean On Me. And you're like,
I love this song.
You were the first one that said, I love it, I'm dancing. Yeah. Yeah, there are times, and I have to sit with my need for approval. I need to sit with my need for approval because, there have been times where people avoid me. And I had a person in my family say, I avoided you because I knew you saw through me. And I knew that I was naked in front of you.
Right.
And I didn't mean to make them feel bad.
Right, of course.
I'm just, it's like, it's happening. Let's deal with it. Let's make it happen. Whatever. Let's, roll up our sleeves.
There's nothing you can do about that. If who you are generates that feeling, there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah. Well, here we go, Kristi. We're moving right along.
I'll be right here waiting for you.
You can text Lillian Mcdermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
And welcome back to the Lillian Mcdermott Radio Show, where we can be heard at whenyounneedafriend.com. I'm your host, Lillian Mcdermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other each day, go through life with childlike wonder, and just be open to a new truth. When you're a child, you don't know anything, but yet you learn so much. Or do you? Do you know nothing and learn so much? Because a child is open. It's an open vessel, and something happens along the way. We're given a diploma. I don't know what it is that all of a sudden we think we know it all. And that's when misery sets in. And so I want to encourage you to be an open vessel and see what is out there. Be a grateful student of life. And today's teacher is Kristi Nelson. She is the executive director of A Network for Grateful Living. And you can go on to gratefulness.org. We talked about Brother David experience with Oprah Winfrey, and Kristi got to be there as well. My dream, Kristi, to see Oprah Winfrey. So I want to encourage you to follow your dreams as well. Part of that is I want you to be a part of our movement of creating 100% responsibility. So go to whenyouneedafriend.com, become a subscriber. And I just ask that when you go there, check out bare minimum our sponsors that have made sure that this show is on the air. If it weren't for them, this show would not be on. So go to my sponsors page and check out how you can support one of my sponsors or more. Please go there, become a subscriber. Also, you can like me on social media and on podcasts, listen on podcasts. I'm on all of them. And you can watch us now on YouTube. These shows are being recorded as well. And so you can go to YouTube on whenyouneedafriend.com. Just click on the YouTube page or the YouTube button, and it'll take you right there. Very easy. And as always, you can call, leave a message, or text 407-373-5959. Now, Kristi, you have given me, once again, lots of food for thought. We're talking about coming and around people that poke us in the eye, that they're unlovable. In our opinion, they're unlovable. In their opinion, they're probably lovable too, but there's a clashing. Do you believe that, or what is your opinion or belief about the energy of different people? People can be like a lighthouse, emitting light everywhere they go. But then there's other people that just walk in, like you said, suck that energy out of the room. Do you believe that that's real, or is it imaginary? What?
Well, it's always what comes up for me when you say that, and that visualization. There's a great quote, which is, lighthouses don't go around looking for where to shine. They just stand there shining. Mm-hmm. And it's like so great. It's like wherever you are, you just stand there shining. You're not looking for people who need light. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing is it possible for someone to take your energy, to suck your energy away unless you give it? I mean, if we're really protected and boundaried, and we're really full of self-care, and we have some level of faith, then I think we've got a lot to learn about our own propensities when we're around certain people and we feel absolutely depleted and run down. And, I have a friend who talks really, really loudly. And she's so beautiful, and I adore her, but she's a New Yorker, and she's really got this big, big voice, and she's super loud, and she knows it. And I've been having hearing challenges and stuff. So I remember I said to her recently, I was so exhausted whenever she left. It was like I didn't have energy to want to see her again. Mm. And I said, I am challenged in being with you, not by who you are, but just the loudness of your voice. Is there any way that you could drop your voice? And now she remembers that whenever we're together. Mm. And it helps me be more present. So I just think there's sometimes ways that we can make small requests of each other that may actually increase the vulnerability in the space between two people. Sometimes that's a really healing thing, is to actually let ourselves be vulnerable instead of protected. When you're around somebody who looks like they want to suck all your energy, they're often really insecure. They're often scared. Often people who are really shy become crazy extroverts when they're nervous and anxious. They become the biggest, all they do is talk. And so you leave the setting and it's like, oh my God, that person is such a big energy hog. And you know what? They go home and they're the quietest, shyest, most insecure kinds of people. But when they're nervous, they talk. So we just don't know what's happening all the time. I think that's the thing. And connecting back to your question is, don't let your energy be sucked. If there's someone who's an energy sucker in the room, you don't have to put the catfish on your body and let it like pull all your, that's your choice. Is you can have your own little boundary space there. I think is really important.
So how do we create those boundaries, Kristi? What are some of the things? I mean, you made a small request, and that was and it came from a place of love. You could have said these things out of a place of frustration, and it would have come out totally different. So let's talk about some tips on really expressing your need without being condescending or demeaning or anything to that effect.
Well, there's that great saying, do you more need to be right, or do you more want to be loved and loving? Like basically, or do you more want to learn? So basically, being right knowing everything is the enemy of learning, period.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the first things to cultivate is that sense of, I'm willing to not know. I'm willing to be wrong. Like, what a great joy to be proved wrong in your most awful assumption about somebody or projection. Would we rather be right in those kinds of circumstances, or would we rather love and learn? So I think that's the first thing to cultivate as a boundary. That's a really great boundary, because that's a vulnerability. Nobody can take that from you.
Yeah.
Nobody can do that, anything to that, which is, oh, wow, you're right. I may really be wrong. What a joy. Can we be joyful about that?
Would you have that conversation prior to the gathering? Or did you have that conversation?
Oh, in myself, for sure. I have that conversation in myself first.
Okay.
And I would go, and it's like, wow, I was really wrong about you. Or I think it's a stance more than a conversation sometimes. I'm more willing to be wrong than I am to not love and be loved. So it's a great joy to me to be wrong if it opens up connection. So that's also something, that's a great thing to think about. Is I've taken a kind of personal practice of trying to be wrong a lot in every day, take full responsibility and apologize all the time. Like, who taught us that there was anything wrong with that? So it's like, oh my gosh, you're right. I was wrong. I think you're right. Or I think you are right are three of the sexiest words besides I love you. That's what I say all the time. It's like when someone says to me, you're right, I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. So I want to start saying that to people all the time. It feels so good.
Yes.
You're right.
You know what? This could be a show in itself. Letting go of the need to be right. I think that if we let go of the need to be right, what would our lives be like right now? If we were to just let that go? What would our lives be like if we let go of the need to be in control?
Yeah, absolutely.
How much would we get done?
Well, and not just that, how much suffering would we leave behind?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the suffering that comes out of the need to be right is monumental and is devastating for a lot of people. And so that control, I mean, I have a couple of people in my family, one of them who shall remain nameless, who has a very strong need to control all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she calls it her need to know. And she's prying and asking questions, but she cannot be wrong, or it devastates her at a really kind of primal level. And when you're around people like that who cannot be wrong, I think that's when you need to have a really big boundary, a really big open space inside yourself for self-care and kind of a little force field.
Yeah, but Kristi, that doesn't make sense to me. If I need to know is followed by I can't be wrong, then there's no need to know.
Exactly.
It's a need to be right.
It's a need to be right. It's covering. So when she says, I have a need to know, what it is so it's the information, everything. It's a need to control. And the need to control is a need to be right. So I think they're all in that swimming. Yeah. And that's one of those things that I was saying is kind of a sideways thing. You can't quite tell you're getting poked, but someone's asking you a ton of questions. And it's like, what's going on here? And you end up feeling really kind of split open or kind of raw or energy depleted. There's something going on that somebody is trying to extract. And just to be aware of that. You know, if someone's coming towards you with a big, huge hypodermic needle to try to take your blood, you know you're getting extracted from. If someone's just walking towards you with all of their mishigas and all of their unmetabolized stuff, their issues, and their need to know and their need to control and their need to be right, you're not going to necessarily know until you all of a sudden notice that you're starting to feel drained, like your blood is literally going out of your body. That's your cue, but it's already sometimes a little too late. So how can we jump into that dynamic a little earlier and recognize it, you know?
Well, I have a question here, and we're going to probably go into the break trying to figure this out, but what is a mishigosh?
Unmetabolized material. It's our own stuff. We've all got mishigas. It's just a human thing. We can look it up. So everybody's got mishigas, but I think some people's is a little more cloying than others.
I love it. I love it. And we're going to continue our conversation with Kristi Nelson, the executive director of a network for grateful living. You can find them at gratefulness.org. And we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. Mishigosh. Mishigosh.
Look it up. Look it
It's
up.
a real word? You didn't make it up?
I'll be right here,
I'll look it up on my phone.
right here
How do you
waiting.
spell it?
I'm going to look it up. You'll see. Hang on. I'll get it.
See, I always learn something new.
I think it's Yiddish.
Yiddish. Oy vey. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're in the process of figuring out Mishigosh. Is
You're
it
gonna love that.
Mishigosh with a?
It's Yiddish. It's Yiddish, yeah.
Okay. I just want to know because I want to be right. Type it up.
On me, I'll be right here waiting
We're
for
being kept on track, Kristi. On track.
You can
Good.
text Lillian
This is our
McDermott or
last
leave her a
segment. Let's
voicemail
make it
at
count.
407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
And welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. And today we have Kristi Nelson, the executive director of a network for grateful living, and instant love, and just gratitude for knowing this woman. From the moment she responded to my my email request to come on the show, and just fell in love with her. You can go to gratefulness.org. I want to encourage you to not only become a subscriber there, but watch the video introducing Brother David. It's called A Grateful Day. You can go on to gratefulness.org and you can light a candle, send a prayer, encouraging words. There's so much you can do. And in a time like now where there's so many massive shootings, there's so much death, fear, dying, and numbness. This is a great site, other than whenyouneedafriend.com. And so I want
we do well together. We do well together.
Yes, it was a match made in heaven. So let's talk about, we've talked about so many things that have been, so revealing to me as well, that I need to sit with, my needs and how I perceive, because how we perceive others is really who we are, in a way. And and we also attract people that make us right about our inabilities to be loved. And so let's talk about forgiveness, because there is a need for forgiveness, because once you realize that you've passed judgment, it's not the judgment that you think they're passing on to you. Because the moment you think that someone is judging you, you're really judging them. So let's talk about that double-edged sword, that double-sided forgiveness to others and forgiveness to self.
That's a hard one to overcome, isn't it? I think that if I feel like you're judging me, then I judge you, and then I'm right. Then I'm in my righteousness again, right? So it's like, it's so hard to get out of that cycle when what's really in there is sadness or hurt about being judged, about feeling made wrong in some way. But we become more righteous when we don't forget. We feel more righteous when we don't forgive. We feel more righteous when we feel like we're the right ones. And so you judge me, I'm going to judge you back bigger, more. Wait till you see my judgment. It's going to take yours by storm, So it's like,
you think you know how to judge.
I can judge. Boy, watch me, right?
Anything you can judge, I can judge better.
Ooh, oh my gosh, I see a new theme song. That's the shadow theme song. It surely is the shadow theme song.
Yeah.
And I think there really is that sense of, that's how we protect ourselves. Be self-forgiving and compassionate with ourselves first about our inclinations to want to, protect ourselves in all those ways. I love the quote about forgiveness. Forgiveness is the hope of having a different past. And it's an unrealizable hope, right? To recognize that, like, okay, boy, I wish something hadn't happened. And how do we enter in the reality that something happened? And it's forgiveness is releasing the idea of having a different past. So it's basically coming to terms with what has happened, what is true, the truth in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, our heads are in the sand. So I think there's something there that what we realize is more than anybody, we release ourselves. When we forgive, we release ourselves. We're so bound up when we're in anger, resentment, all those judgments, all that righteousness, all of that stuff is a surefire, very quick path to suffering.
Mm.
So I would really say that it may feel like it's protective, and it's actually one of the surest ways to keep ourselves up at night, to have things gnaw at us, that kind of feeling, is that something's really unresolved. And so I love the idea of how can we forgive? And sometimes that means releasing and just letting go. It doesn't mean a lot more engagement. It means releasing the feelings that are in the way of being free.
Mm.
More than, oh, I want to be with you all the time now, or, oh, look at this great relationship we have. That may not be the outcome.
The outcome might be accepting that there's, you can be in the same room, or maybe not be in the same room.
Right.
It's the feeling we hold. Again, there's another quote that says that lack of forgiveness or holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And
Absolutely.
I love that one because that one has probably for me, or I remember hearing Wayne Dyer say that it's not the snake bite that kills you, it's the venom that runs through your blood. And so that's what happens. So to me, forgiveness is crucial. We talk about forgiveness. I've written many articles on forgiveness, but yet there's a difference between forgiveness and trust. And I think many people hold them in the same value. And so because you forgive doesn't mean that person is allowed back into your life. And knowing that you are taking that stand without feeling guilty. What are your words of wisdom for someone who's taking a stand? Maybe the person is abusive, maybe not just being insensitive. I'm talking about abusive. That you say,
Right.
You're not welcome in my home anymore. How do you reconcile with that, knowing that you're turning your back on someone and at the same time you've been able to forgive them?
Are you turning your back, or are you turning towards yourself? I think, I really think it's not about the other person as much as what is my commitment to myself in this situation. And sometimes we have to make really, really, really hard decisions to extricate ourselves from relationships that are incredibly toxic for us. And I think we extricate ourselves not with righteousness, not with venom, not with, all of that, but not then also taking the poison ourselves and thinking the other person's going to die. So that's that resentment energy that just is not going to work. But how can we have that boundary? I think it's really possible to say, in my need for self-care, this relationship doesn't figure in well. Like, this just doesn't make a lot of sense given my current principles, my current values, my current ways of living in the world. And it doesn't match up to the other relationships that I have. Like, at some point, it's so beautiful when you start earning yourselves these really profound, loving, caring, reciprocal, generous relationships. And all of a sudden, a relationship that you've had that's really not worked well, it becomes super clear. It's like all of a sudden the light is all beaming and shining on that one situation, saying, this is out of synchronicity. This is not in the fold of the way that I'm living the rest of my life. And so I'm going forward. And I'm going forward towards what matters most to me, embodying what matters most to me. And I'm not necessarily going to take that person with me, but I can bless and release them. Yes. Bless and release, bless and release. It's like carrying around luggage that you just say, you know what? I don't need this luggage anymore. I'm going to bless it, release, put it down. Whew.
Yeah, all done, all done.
Liberation.
So I know that we're getting down to the last minute, and this thought came to my mind. There are prices and there are payoffs for every decision we make. The price of letting go and releasing and saying, I'm not going to hold this person in my heart in a negative intention. I'm going to bless them and send them love. But yet I know that person is going to be at a family gathering. I can no longer go to that family gathering. Or can you? Or can you? Because if you don't go to that family gathering, knowing that they're there, if you don't go to that family gathering, then you miss out on all the beautiful people that are also there.
That's a tragic pay. That's a tragic cost. That's a tragic cost. And I think actually, if we can't go to the family gathering at all, then it says something much more about how unresolved we are rather than we've really done the healing. It just means there's more work to be done. I think that's the invitation, is there's more healing and releasing to be done. And you go and you just keep healing and releasing.
There you go. I love it. I love it because, when you're in a bigger crowd and you're in a bigger group, it's not like you're bringing them into your home. You're going into somebody else's home that has embraced that person. And as the guest, you welcome all the people there, but you don't have to hang out and be friends with them, and just enjoy and be a part of all the family, all the relationships, all the friendships. And Kristi, I am so grateful that we've had this conversation, because that makes, maybe someone who is struggling with this right now, especially as they're going into the holiday season where we were supposed to be so jolly. I
Right.
wonder if this conversation will set them free so they can.
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope
Thank you,
so.
Kristi, so much for your love and support and for everything that you do to be a friend of the show.
You're a really dear friend to us. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you. And to you, my listening friend, love is a choice. You may not have chosen how you were treated, but you can certainly choose how you treat others. This is Lillian Mcdermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. I just love it when you're on the show.
You're so easy.
Hey, that's what he said. I hope that's not being recorded. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, so any final words, Kristi, that you would like to share with my viewers now?
Stay grateful. Look for all the opportunities in life that life offers you. Life is going to give you a lot of things, both that you asked for and didn't ask for. Just keep looking for the opportunities.
I love it. And with that, that'll be our last word. Thank you for watching today, and I look forward to our next conversation.